The new official trailer and early reviews have dropped for the Rings of Power, and today we will be discussing all the latest news, firstly analysing the trailer, then the early reviews including some from Fellowship of Fans members, then the stories of the Second Age region videos, new clips from USA Today, and then at the end a section on our final thoughts before we go into the Amazon Lord of the Rings of Power, debuting now in under a week. The first thing we will be discussing is the official trailer, which honestly was a pretty average trailer, and I'm sure many have been seeing these 30-second to a minute promo clips on YouTube and on our page in the last few days. So we are at a stage now where we just want to watch the full show, and some have even stopped watching some of these promos. The San Diego Comic-Con trailer was a better trailer, but again, that trailer was for us fans, hence it being premiered at a geek event, whereas this trailer, which you can see and hear from the more modern music twist on it, is for the average audience and fantasy fans. That's just the nature of the game. At the start, we see a lot of the same shots from previous clips. Then we see an extended shot of the Finrod first stage battle, and then Galadriel taking the dagger from his body, so we can now confirm that this dagger was originally Finrod's. And they are seeming to be setting up this revenge mission with Galadriel with the line, "My brother gave up his life fighting the enemy, his task is now mine." For this next part, the dialogue here is actually more important and more revealing than the actual shots itself, with Galadriel saying, quote, "Ours was no chance meeting, not fate nor destiny. Ours was the work of something greater," maybe reference to divine intervention or even Eru himself. This is of course Galadriel also speaking about Halbrand, who in this shot looks quite devious, but overall they are trying to display the importance of these two characters meeting. Then we have an extended shot of the children in Valinor from previous trailers, including Emily Child-Villiers as baby Galadriel running towards the stream. This moment confirms one of our previous leaks, where Meteor Man will defend the hobbits from attacks, and especially these warg or werewolf-like creatures, and it might be related to the scene from earlier on in the previous trailer. A nice montage of Gil-galad, Miriel, Isildur, Aronde, until we again go back to one of the vocal points of this trailer, Halbrand, who as described in one of our leaks from ages ago, is locked up here in this shot but in Numenor after Galadriel and him first arrive in Numenor and get sent from the throne room but escape thanks to this dagger which was passed, as we can see in this scene here. He says, quote, "I am not the hero you seek," but interestingly Galadriel says afterwards in a separate part of the show, "Whatever it was you did, be rid of it." So there is something bad that Halbrand has done in his past that he's clearly dealing with, which is why he might be on a raft on the other side of the world from Teherad, which is his home area. We have Princess Disa saying, "One day this will be your kingdom." It seems like in this season Durin the Fourth is really going to be trying to prove himself, so maybe this is Disa reassuring him. Next, interesting shot of Adar and him leading the orcs seemingly in a forested area, presumably before an attack, maybe on Teherad. Oops and Apple get that off screen quickly. This shot again shows the high difference between Meteor Man and Eleanor and their relationship as well, as it seems to grow throughout the season, whilst Meteor Man not even speaking that much. We get a wholesome line from Largo Brandyfoot talking about half-wits having hearts even bigger than their feet. Here we see Halbrand saving Galadriel from the sea monster and an intimate shot between Bronwyn and Aronde. Interestingly enough, this shot here is actually not in the show, which is quite interesting. Galadriel does not leave this guy behind, don't worry. But again, back to Halbrand, seemingly in a tense moment with Galadriel, asking her why she keeps fighting, and then she says there is a tempest in her when she is probably trying to convince the Numenorians and Queen Miriel to come to Middle-earth and help save Teherad. Next, we see the Numenor cavalry in action alongside a maneuver with a chain of some sorts, which seems to take out a lot of orcs in the Teherad village. This shot of Kerine looking worried is from actually this leak from a while back, where she doesn't want Isildur going off to war, as we can see here. Interestingly, with fireballs in the background as well, which links to the more recent speculation of this being a Mount Doom eruption due to the trembling in the ground from earlier shots in the last trailer. That is the trailer covered, nothing too major or new except the interesting emphasis on Halbrand. Also, here are some nice shots from some more recent promos on screen, as there have been many, but we don't have enough time to cover all of them. But the next interesting update is that on the 23rd, the embargo dropped on the early reviews for the first 2 episodes, and even though they are not full comprehensive reviews, we can get somewhat of an idea. Of course, you cannot make a full judgment of how successful or good a show will be just off 2 episodes, but there were some common threads and themes, for example the scope and scale being mentioned quite a lot and how it will be quote cinematic. This was always a given with the $1 billion, and from some of the trailer and promotional videos we can see this to be the case. Interesting love for the Harfoots as well, so that will be an interesting storyline to look out for. Support towards the cast as well, including Morvid Clark, so it will be exciting to see her performance, and overall it seemed overwhelmingly positive from the press. But the most important thing, and which I stress, is what you think, and we just have under a week to find out. And some have mentioned that in the past with shows like Obi-Wan Kenobi and the most recent Thor movie, the early reviews don't really necessarily paint a 100% picture of what the final product will actually be, because by fans they weren't as revered and loved as the early reviews could have suggested, but again it's all up to interpretation. But as a general consensus, people at least don't hate it, to be fair, so at least the minimum threshold is being met. But again, what's most important is what you think, and let us know when you do, when the episodes drop. Apparently there were a lot of little lore and Easter egg moments and even trivia moments in the first episodes, and for us fans who will know the answers is nice and good. But one reviewer did interestingly state whether actually having this many Easter eggs will be a little too much for the average audiences, as it will be harder for them to get involved with the show, but hopefully that won't be a roadblock. Lakitia, Kyle and Varking from Fellowship of Fans went to the New York premiere, and they all generally enjoyed it, and all the scores out of 10 were above 7.5. Hopefully we can hear more from them soon. One of the more better pieces of marketing we have received so far are the stories of the Second Age series, which goes through all the different locations and kingdoms in the Second Age, with some new clips as well in them alongside the cast talking through their characters. The most revealing one was this one on Teherad, which confirmed its location interestingly in Mordor, and we have the exact locations of the village and watchtower here on screen. Also, we get to see the human villagers at Teherad not really liking the elves. There is some resentment towards them, as they seem to be under their guard and control due to siding with Morgoth in the First Age, such as this line from Ian Blackburn's character towards Arondir. We had a Numenor one too, which showed this awesome shot of Numenor showing the splendour and might of the Island Kingdom, which is at its peak, and this grandeur is seen through the eyes of Galadriel and Halbrand, who enter into the kingdom. We interestingly see an angry mob here, which might be against the Numenorians going to Middle-earth and helping the elves, and seems to be after Pharazôn's speech, so maybe there is a link between the two. The cast have been on US Today, and we have seen some new clips from their interviews. Firstly, this clip of Durin IV, Princess Disa and Elrond at the dinner table in Durin's home, and you can already tell the heavy Scottish accents from the dwarves and the intimate love between Durin and Disa, which also from today's Durin video shows their intimacy with this quite comedic line on screen, and also shows Elrond and Celebrimbor interestingly entering Khazad-dûm, which happens indeed in episode 2. The next clip is between Gil-galad and Elrond, which interestingly highlights the oath that Elrond has sworn towards Durin that Gil-galad seemingly wants Elrond to break due to the severity of the enemy and how it could help them in the fight against evil. This will be an interesting personal dilemma for the character to choose between his friend and his king. Oaths and all that don't really end up too great within Tolkien's works. Finally, we get a comedic clip of the Harfoots Poppy and Nori after they find Meteor Man and get him up a hill in a wheelbarrow whilst discussing who it could be, with an elf and a man suggested but ruled out as an option. The Merry and Pippin dynamic can be seen here, from Meteor Man falling down the hill while they argue. It's safe to say that these two will be an interesting pair. Now on to final overall thoughts for The Rings of Power. This show premieres in under a week from today, and this will probably be one of the final scripted videos from Fellowship of Fans like this, and man has it been a journey. There is no guarantee this show will be a success. The framework is there and they do have the resources, and from early reviews at least the scope and scale is there, alongside a few trusted people of mine also liking it from the premieres. But honestly, it comes down to the writing. There is a lot to juggle in this show, especially the amount of storylines, and it does seem like pacing will be an important factor to its success, as at least episode 1 has a lot of setting up from what I've been told, and episode 2 the pace quickens up a bit, so hopefully this will pan itself out in the future episodes and there will be a balance struck. The dialogue is also paramount. There have been promising moments such as the lines in this clip in the Stronghold where Galadriel states, quote, "Even water cannot hide whose very hand is flame unquenched." But then in the more recent and not, let's say, fair enough, the best in the world 30-second promos, there have been some lines which don't come off too great, but they are out of context. But because these are made by the marketing team and devoid of it being in the actual scene itself, which has been taken out into a 30-second promo, I'll give it the benefit of the doubt. Finally, I hope it feels like we are indeed back in Middle-earth once again. Some of the locations, as you can see on screen right now, absolutely transports us back to this enchanting world by the Professor. But whether it can be sustained over 50 hours, only time will tell. So that is it. Season 1 is under a week away, and I want to finally thank everybody for the love and support thus far. It feels crazy that this is probably FOF's final video before the show premieres. We started this just a month or two after the cast was announced in January 2020, before it was popular or cool to love or hate the show, before people, YouTubers, corporate, media, industry started talking about the show in a positive or negative way, before it was cool to argue on Twitter or in the YouTube comments on it on either side. I am proud that we have been here since day one before all of that and have that integrity and the journey we have been on since April 2020. 2 years in the making. Is this show we are getting now what I thought it would be 2 years ago? Definitely not, from a lot of the original characters to the time compression, etc, etc. For example, check out the Council of Fan episodes from the very beginning. But I am still excited to see what this show will bring. But we have been on one massive ride. Thank you guys for watching, I really appreciate it. Make sure to like and subscribe. But until the next video, my friends, goodbye.